So all the arches that are rounded, because they are Romanesque, have a scale that is still going up, almost like the Gothic. And I was immediately drawn to the windows that pierce this, and so and the windows are the same shape. So in the end, you're drawn to that shape, which is a tall rectangle with an arch on the top. And you immediately think of the light coming down, and also you've got the scale going up, and you've got the scale, you've got the same shape on the ground. A lot of the time it's repeated on the footprint of the building. So that arch, that long rectangle and an arch is repeated throughout the building. And that seemed to me very significant. And then we are thinking about water, and the movement of water. But I think also that this arch shape is like a window. It's like a window onto something. So you could say, okay, it's a window onto the movement of water, because we're right next to the Seine here. And, we have this movement of water, but also the whole the movement of water is repeated in microcosm in our body, and particularly the way that blood moves in the body and the way blood moves in the heart, particularly, it moves in vortex patterns. So you see that in water, you see that in river, you see it in clouds, and you see it in the human heart, the way blood is pumped. And immediately the idea of blood, water, wine is connected to the Christian tradition. And all those things would be connected, and growing sap in trees, of which you could say wine comes from a vine, which is a plant, which is like a tree, has the same properties of movement of water through it. So, and then I look around at a material, and the first thing I noticed actually before we even got here was just on the drive, was seeing people's stacks of logs for burning for the winter. And I thought that's a good resource. It's a unit. A split log is a unit, and I can use a unit. You can make a pattern with a unit. And then we have this huge pile of split logs here. So it's a material that's immediately available. It's an interesting colour. It's quite the same colour as the stone itself. And so the thought to me to use this window shape and lay it out on the ground so it's flat. And to immediately I was drawn to the very, very big arch. And I thought, well, if we take that shape and that scale exactly and put that on the ground, and then fill it with a pattern of movement which comes from both water and blood and the heart, then we have a multiple connection there with this place.
So you expect something strong and dynamic and dense?
Yes, because that shape is very solid and definite, and then within it you have this dynamic movement. And so to put it on the grass and have the grass, the colour green around it, to hold the shape, and then to have it, and then in the interior of it you have this massive movement. And when you look at the Seine, the Seine, it has this immense cliff by it, and it's contained in this shape, and yet the water itself is a chaotic pattern.
Good. How would you like the visitor watch, apprehend, appreciate, handle your work of art? How would you, the visitor, how would you like him, either mentally and physically, you see, geographically?
Well, the site we we've chosen, which is the raised garden. Has an immediate, as you stand up above it and look down onto that raised garden, you look to the right and you see the abbey itself, which rears up, and so there's an immediate connection between, and then the ground, and then you have this this very strong pattern on the ground. So you can see that in relation to the abbey and in relation to the whole ground, but also you can then come close to it, and you could even walk on it.
Would you like people to step on it eventually?
I don't see how you'll ever stop people stepping on it, and it's not going to hurt it.
Good. Globally talking, how does your inspiration work? Globally, you see. Are your people at once you've got something, or you need days and days, or?
I think when you look for an idea, you need to find the idea very fast. You need to have you need to connect with the place and then look for an idea. So even that first evening, I had two ideas, and I was playing with the first one, and then we talked it over, and I was also thinking of another one, and I was thinking of three ideas, I think, and in the first evening, I think, was it the first evening we decided that the first idea was totally impractical because it would have damaged bats.
Working here late.
Because it would have damaged bats and birds, so that was not on. And so we moved to the second one, and then we refine that one until you get it absolutely, the whole idea fits with the space, and you have to go out and you have to measure stuff, and you have to measure the logs and see how they work. And,
have you already worked in such a site, such a place? I mean, century-old, very patrimonial, full up with ideas, philosophy, politics, even.
Yeah, and history.
And history, yes.
I've worked in historic sites, yes. Actually, this year in Switzerland, in a castle, which had the same kind of history. Different history, obviously, but again, it's a historic site, and it's incredibly exciting to work because you're working with many levels. You're working with the history of the place and what's gone on in its human history, and then its environmental history and its connection to the place. Because this place is built of a certain stone that's of this place, and it's near water, which is why we're making works about water. And then the water is connected. Water connects us all, because we're all partly liquid. And I just like those different layers, and it's very rich to work with a place that has such depth to it, and obviously such a lot has gone on here. It's been torn apart, rebuilt, lots of violence, probably.
Destroyed. And so is it each time now you try to, when you arrive somewhere, you try to make a demonstration and to reach what you want, that is to say, liquid and energy and vortex and while?
Well, the idea behind the exhibition is water. Yeah. So I go with water. If it was something else, I would go without. So I have immediate connections with water because I've been making a lot of work about water, and so that immediately is very familiar to me, and water's connection to blood and all that.
So it depends.
So I can use all that I've used before in different contexts, but put it in a new context, and it becomes something totally new because you're dealing with a whole new place. And so it's all to do with context and where you place a thing, and everything has to be right. Context, material, scale, idea, place, etc.
Just tell me, with the work of art you are doing, which is called, what do you call it? Your new project?
Window
probably, yes.
on blood and water.
On blood, window on blood and water. Had you a moment where the project itself was taking you forward? You see what I mean? You were pushed up by the project itself, discovering a new reading, a new lecture of it. You see what I mean?
Because as things drop away, then it becomes clearer what will work here. And of course it has to work with budget and time scale, so everything has to fit. It can't be too complicated. And this is reasonably simple. I can say it would probably take 8 to 10 days to make. The material is here.
Okay, let's go back to your vécu, your experience and all that. What could you tell me today about the long walks you had with Hamish Fulton? Have you still souvenirs?
Yes. Well, with Hamish, but also I've been walking in different parts of the world for a long time. Less so recently, as I tend to be asked to do specific things. But I keep getting now. I keep wanting to go. Often just walk somewhere without any agenda, just to walk. I rarely get that opportunity actually.
Yeah.
Now, because I get so busy having to do other things.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, you read about walking, yes?
Yes, I do. I read about walking, but I don't make work about walking. I think walking allows you to think with your body, and that's because we all think too much with our heads. And I think when you walk, you think with your body and your feet, and like when you make something with your hands, you think with your hands. And it's when it's only just the head, then that's not very good. I think you get it instinctively. You understand something better with all your senses.
Good. Do you consider yourself as a land artist?
No.
And why?
Not
How?
really.
Where? No.
Not really. Because it's too narrow. Land artists kind of suggest you have to make something on the land, but when you take nature, nature is such a broad thing. I mean, we are nature ourselves, so and anything we do is nature. And a science, kind of scientists who are looking at nature from a different perspective, are still nature. In a sense, they're nature as well. So that gives you, that's an immensely complex thing. And just to be a land artist is too simple. I want to be able to make films if I want to. I want to be able to work on a computer if that's where the information is coming from. That's what I'd like to do. But
okay. Could you tell something about land art today? I mean, from your point of view, land art, well, you've answered in a way already, huh? But you don't want to hear anymore that appellation because it's too related with a specific movement in the 60s,
immediately,
50s.
yes, it brings you to Smithson and Richard Long and all that, and I think it has branched in many directions now, so that there are people who work with land, but there are people who work with land in all sorts of different ways, who wouldn't also want to be considered. I've never met a land artist who wants to be called a land artist.
So, would you have a name for yourself? Would you have? Sometimes you think you are what kind of artist? Is it possible to qualify yourself?
As soon as you qualify it, you put yourself in a box, and I want to be out of the box. Actually, I want the freedom to look at many other boxes. So I would just say that I'm an artist who's looking for connections in the world and looking for different ways to make connections. That's it, really.
So what are the horizons you would like to go to direct yourself now?
Now?
Have you got a dominion or ways, means you are attracted by?
No, because I think people tend to come to me more now, and some of it is projects like this, which is definitely related to place and history and the physicality of the place and material. But then at other times people come to me and say, I'd like you to work with this scientist on ice or whatever, and that's equally interesting, because there's no, in that situation, there's no end result. It's open-ended, so that you don't know what you're going to do.
Do you give importance to team working, to work in a team, with a team, with people, or
yes?
Are you much more do you like to be alone, or?
No, I like working with teams. I've just actually being asked to work with a dance group, and musicians and dancers, and at the moment I'm finding it very hard because they're coming from a different direction, and they actually want to do a project on breath, which would include water and movement, and at the moment it hasn't got off the ground. It's very hard, but it's very much improvised. And so that as a collaboration it will be exciting, but we don't even know how to begin. Because first we need money, and then we need a place, and then we need to start improvising. And so I think it's an interesting idea, but I don't even know how to begin.
Does it mean that having an idea is maybe the most important thing, or do you always want to go till the end of the project to realize it?
Well, if you take the dancers, for instance, they've got an idea, but that means absolutely nothing to me, because it's not connected to a place or a space. As soon as there's a place, as soon as there's something you can actually tangibly hold on to, and I find it much easier to work with a place, like I'm here, so you immediately work with a place. And a place and an idea is even better. What's really difficult is to work with, say, a scientist who's just got an idea, and so you're searching, and there's no place. Kind of the place is the universe, if you like, and the patterns in the universe, and it's very difficult to find somebody to hold on to there. And as an artist, I always look for something visual to hold on to with the scientists. And until they give you something visual, you haven't got a latch. And you can connect with the ideas, but you actually need something tangible. And most of science is really intangible, especially nuclear, the stuff that's going on at CERN.
Good. Could you tell me about the durability of your works, your artistic works? Because you've got works which doesn't last, others last, are perenne.
Some things are stored on computers and you don't know how long they'll last. Other things you think will last 600 years, and you get a huge rainstorm and you've got to think again. Because so the how long things last is in the lap of the gods a lot of the time. If people say, could you make me a permanent work? Well, there is no such thing. Somebody can come along and smash it up. So as I get older, I tend to want to make things that aren't going to disappear tomorrow. But then I don't mind doing that either, because I think if there's a moment for something and it's just there for that moment, then that's really exciting too. And if you just make something for that moment and then you can chuck it out.
Have you something to say about from the birth of an idea till the end of the work, the different steps? Do you have it in mind, or it depends on each project?
For each project it's different, but I plan very meticulously and work it all out as far as you can go. And then I've never been able to give a project to somebody else and say, well, here you are, we've planned it, please make it. So, but I really like making things, because it's part of it. If you didn't touch anything, what's the point? You think with your body. So when it comes to, you plan it meticulously, and then it comes to making it, it's often like a dance. And often a lot of people are involved, and it's often really good fun.
Do you always draw, make sketches?
I make drawings and sketches, yes.
Yeah.
And
a lot?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. Well, you have to for projects. And I use a scale ruler a lot, so I know kind of what I'm working to. So I always take that with me when I'm going. But I don't draw like a painter. I don't do a lot of those drawings.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of drawings would be works, if you like. So that there's in the written works I make with writing, it's like drawing.
Yeah.
That's a different thing. That's a kind of work in itself, because it's a process.
Mm-hmm. Do you have material which you prefer?
No, there's always the material. There's only one material that's really appropriate, and that's the one that's there in front of you and easily available. And if you were to say, well, I could come here and I say I need slate, that would be pointless. You'd have to go and get it from somewhere else. It doesn't belong here, so it's not the right material, even though it's really beautiful.
Good. A very French-like question. What is your relationship to France, with France, in your work?
Well, my relationship to Normandy in particular is that my ancestors come from here. They come from Dreux down the road, actually, and I have that in my name.
Drury, Dreux.
My name has the word D-R-U, Drury, because Dreux refers to Dreux, and it's where whoever it was came over with William the Conqueror came from. So I always have that relationship with France, and I come to France a lot, and I love it. I would love to make more work here. I'd like to show more work in Paris.
In Paris, yes?
Yeah.
You mean within the city, yes?
Yeah, I'd like to show.
For example?
I'd like to show more works that I've got on paper. There's a whole area of my work that hardly gets shown because I don't deal for some reason with galleries. But that's not to say I don't want to, because it's all connected to everything else. And it's.
Good. Anything else to say?
It's just that I'm really happy to be here.
Well, you are happy.
Good to work with you, Jean-Marc.
Yeah. I love that. Me too. So sorry. Okay, thank you, Chris. It's so